Welcome, everyone, to Real Estate 360 Live. I'm your host, Ryan Sloper. For those of you not familiar with the show, my guests and I will cover every angle of real estate, from interest rates to the economy to what's happening in Washington. Anything that affects our local real estate markets will be covered here. If you have credit issues that you're struggling to get back on track to be able to apply for a mortgage loan and be approved, and you're just looking for some guidance, whether it's a silly parking ticket or something that you were late on that you're disputing and being held up now in the loan approval process because of it, we're here to help. If you're looking to refinance the lowest rates in U.S. history, we'll put you in touch with a lender that we trust that will take care of your transaction and get you the lowest interest rate possible. The best phone number to reach us is the off-air phone number, which is 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. Remember, you've got the questions and I've got the answers, and make sure that you're joining us every Monday at 1580 a.m. from 9 to 10 in the morning. And if you have any other questions that you'd like to leave via the website, go to realestate360live.com. That's realestate360live.com. On the right-hand side, there's an Ask a Question button. Just put in your name and contact information, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Remember, if it's real estate, it's covered here. We have a great show lined up for you guys today. We have the Fed meeting that's finishing up. We're going to dive into that. Also, we're going to talk about the harmful effects of changing your listing price when you're trying to sell your home. Joining me on our panel today is Louis Cammarosano, who is the general manager of HomeGain. Louis is often cited in the media as an industry expert in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, CNN Money, Fox Business, Smart Money, MSN, and numerous others. We're going to discuss with you about what happened in the markets last week, as well as what's on deck this week, that things that can potentially affect, the sale of your home or your ability to obtain a mortgage. We're going to cover that today. Louis, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing grand. And yourself, Ryan?
I'm doing well, Louis. It's good to hear from you. Hope you had a great weekend. We've got a lot to cover today. Obviously, I don't want to start. I mean, you had sent me the article late last week that the Fed is now going to basically be buying up about 90% of the new bonds that are going to be issued out. Your email that you sent me, and I kind of agree with you. I mean, that's just that's insanity what they're doing to basically be buying up all the debt. I mean, they're and that just tells you that there is no demand for the new debt that we're pushing out there. So, what are your thoughts? So, where are we headed with this? I mean, what do you think does the Fed have some sort of master plan in the background, do you think, that they're trying to, basically, they've already maybe got Europe and everybody on board that this is what's going to take place, or is this just something that they just came up with all of a sudden?
I think it's something that's a necessity that governments, by their definition, need to grow. They need revenues, and it used to be, through taxation. And at some point, you can only tax so much and spend so much, so they then resorted to printing and spending. And they realized that it's a lot easier to do that, especially if there's no accountability, and they can just print up the money, they will. And the concept of keeping interest rates low through printing money, the concept of stimulating the economy through printing money, it's like a little kid has found a way to make candy, and is going to gorge himself on it and doesn't care about the end result. This really is a disaster because when 90% of the bonds are being purchased by the Federal Reserve, you're right, it means there's no demand, especially at this interest rate, which is an indication that these rates are artificially low. They're low for a reason, and it doesn't seem like they're going to stop. And, you got the Fed meeting coming up, Wednesday, where they're going to decide what to do. Now, remember last year before the election, I said that they wouldn't do QE3 before the election. They didn't want to appear to be political. I don't think they care anymore.
No.
So I think they're going to want insurance against the fiscal cliff. So they'll probably announce another round of or an increased round of buying, printing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think that that's definitely what's going to take place. I mean, the Fed meeting does conclude on Wednesday. And the expectation is from many people on Wall Street now is that they're going to announce that they're going to continue to buy U.S. long-dated treasuries when Operation Twist expires at the end of this month. So I wouldn't see any reason why they're going to stop that. They're already pumping in, I want to say it's about $45 billion of treasuries a month. And
you know why this is, Ryan? Because our economy in the last 20, 30 years 70% of GDP is based on spending, and that's spending borrowed money. So this is a debt-based society. The economy was goosed after 9/11 by lowering interest rates to create a housing bubble, and now they're trying to do that again. And so the other portion of the economy is people moving in and out of houses, and that's not really the basis of a sound economy. It's not an economy that produces things, saves their money, and then can go and buy a house and then can go spend. It's an economy that's based on borrowing money, buying a house, and buying consumer goods from China. And the only way you can keep that up, it's a debt-based economy, is the Fed has to be the grandmaster debt issuer.
Yeah, the irony of that is that we are a debt-based society, and what they're trying to do to continue to get people to buy homes is not even working, because they can't. Even if they have interest rates at 1%, the banks will tighten the underwriting standards so that they're going to have less and less people that qualify for these loans. I mean, it's
also, Ryan, what about the people, the overall economy? I don't know, you saw the unemployment numbers came out last week, and they were, looks like, a 7.6% unemployment rate. But what that masks is that the young people don't have jobs. The number of people out of the labor force increased to over 540,000. 259,000 jobs are lost in the 25 to 54 age bracket. So those people can't borrow money and go buy a house, even if they wanted to, because they don't have a job.
Exactly, and as we've talked about previously on the show,
you can lower interest rates all you want.
Right, and it's great, and you could have the actual demand there for people that want to buy these homes, but the reality is that they don't have the qualifications to obtain the loan to get that property. And
a demand-based economy is a loser because demand is infinite. It's supply and production that are in short supply. And
you bring up you bring up an interesting point, Lewis, because I hear every day, out on the streets where it's like, I really think that I need to buy, within the next 6 months to a year, because I know interest rates are low and I'm worried they're not going to be able to take advantage of them. Well, for people out there, if that's what you're thinking right this second, you need to prepare yourself for the fact that it might be very difficult for you to get approved for that loan, number one. I'm not saying that everybody's not going to be qualified, but what I am saying is that there could be one or two things that could hold you back if you don't start taking a look at stuff right now. I mean, I urge everyone, even if you're not potentially looking to buy right now, you might want to just call up a lender and just, get your credit evaluated, even if it's a potential that you could buy in the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, I would start so far ahead of time, because buying a home these days is so much more difficult. And the fact that you can have more time to save for a down payment, you could have more time to get your credit squared away so that you're able to take advantage of these interest rates. Now, granted, the Fed has said that they're going to keep interest rates low for an extended period of time. We don't know what that timeline is, but if they're able to continue to manipulate as they have and continue to buy mortgage-backed securities to keep interest rates low, it could be well into 2015. Now,
that's remarkable, isn't it, that the Fed is able to overpower the overall market and in effect become the market?
Absolutely. I mean, they are the market. I mean, they're going to be buying up all of our debt. They're buying up all the mortgage-backed securities, suppressing interest rates. They're doing basically everything in their power. They're this private bank who's just pumping money into the system. The money just has yet trickled down to people's hands. So
right, it's a private bank with a monopoly to print the currency with legal tender laws, so you have to use their money.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, it's over time, Congress is giving them more and more power. I mean, before we know it, the Feds, they're essentially running the country. They're running the country.
Congress will continue to spend with no cap on their spending, because the Federal Reserve will monetize the debt.
Yeah, and I think that, with them coming out basically saying, that they're going to be buying up 90% of the new bonds, I mean, that tells you right there that nothing is going to get worked out between the president and Congress. It's not going to happen, or at least not to the extent that you would need to see spending cuts, and even if they were to raise taxes to try to get this deficit in order, it's not going to happen. I mean,
but isn't that whole tax the rich thing just a smokescreen? Because that doesn't solve anything. That covers 8 days worth of spending. That really just makes it a political issue. It gets the population distracted on a false kind of issue that somehow rich people don't deserve the money. And you can argue that philosophically till the cows come home, but it has nothing to do with the financial straits that the country is in. We don't have $100 trillion deficit because somebody made too much money and needs to pay more taxes.
No, absolutely not. And the solutions that they're pushing out there don't solve the problem at all. At all. It's just fun for them to talk about.
I'm tired of the whole fiscal cliff thing because it really doesn't matter what they do. It's not going to solve the problem.
Right, and then I mean, at the end of this, I can see the headlines now. Obama and Congress come to some sort of an agreement where they're going to raise some taxes on the rich, and they're going to have to compromise and get rid of some other things, maybe the mortgage interest deduction, and then the stock market's going to rally like everything is hunky dory, and that's not what's going to take place.
It's going to be another punt down the road of not reducing the deficit and making a symbolic gesture that they kept tax cuts for the middle class, and they raised the evil rich has to pay 2% have to pay a little bit more, and in the future they'll cut something.
Yeah, and ultimately, okay, so you tax the rich a little bit more, and many of the rich are business owners, they're entrepreneurs. Do you think that they're not going to find ways around what the tax hikes, like
they'll find ways around, and in fact,
cutting their employer?
It happened in the UK, Ryan, where when that happens, not only do they move, you end up getting less tax revenue when you try to raise taxes. And the whole concept of taxes is somehow the government owns that money and somehow is letting you keep it, which is kind of a ridiculous concept. But it's not going to solve anything, and they're going to continue to push that, and that's just a distraction to the overall issues that we're basically borrowing money, spending money, printing and spending. And for housing, that's good if you can get a handle on get one of those loans at basically no interest and grab yourself an asset to ride out the storm.
Yeah, so, and this is something really to consider. So people that may have not even be thinking about buying right now, you're just saying, I'm just happy with renting. Well, if things play out, if we continue down this path of just, artificial manipulation of the mortgage interest rate market, and, we continue to print more and more money, the Fed continues to buy up all of our own debt, inevitably, inflation is going to take place. Now, many people say, well, we've already been pushing so much out there. I haven't really seen any change in prices. It hasn't been that drastic. This is something, as Louis, you and I spoke all the time, it's not something necessarily you just see right away. It's kind of like slowly works its way into the market, but it can accelerate really fast.
And you see it in the price of oil. You see it in the price of commodities. It eventually ends in the price of goods. And eventually, housing dropped. The rents will rise.
Yep.
And that's when you'll be hurting because your wages won't be rising. But if you had that 30-year fixed mortgage, your home housing costs, shelter costs remain the same.
Yeah, so and everybody else that is left out in the cold with having to pay their landlord. Landlords are going to continue to raise rents probably every year, every time that lease comes to be renewed. And I mean, we've already seen, just in certain neighborhoods in the D.C. metro area where it could be a year ago at $1,600, now renting for $1,900. Those are huge, huge changes. And I would think, especially with we have an undersupply of homes and a lot of the surrounding areas in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, I would think that this trend is going to hold true.
By the way, Ryan, that's almost a 20% increase in rent.
Yeah, I know. And I think that we've seen a lot of those type of increases in metropolitan areas. Now, some in the suburban areas, not as much. People are moving further away. Their rents are still going up. You're talking. There's some surrounding counties, like Prince William County, for instance. You're talking about you could have one-bedroom apartments that are still at $1,400-$1,500, where before they might have been at $1,000 to $1,100. So everything is shifting upward. And what we're talking about, this is long term. This is going to be the trend that continues. Rents are going to continue to rise. I believe the cost of goods and services is going to continue to rise. Interest rates are probably going to stay low. The question is, will the percentage of people that are out there that want to buy going to be able to actually get approved for those loans? It starts with, reaching out to a professional that can let evaluate your situation where you're at right now and figure out if you're a candidate to be able to even buy right now. But it starts by reaching out at 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. When we come back, is the luxury housing market making a rebound? We'll let you know. Stay right there.